Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna work on a pretty difficult orchid, I would say. Here we have a Vandaceous orchid. It's actually my Neo-Stylus Lucenary that I purchased a few months ago. As you can see, it's mounted, and I ran into a bit of trouble with this orchid. It arrived with a beginning of crown rot on all of its crowns. It has multiple growths, and it continued to affect the plant. So I tried to stop it with different methods. I, in the end, used dragon's blood. I do have a video talking about it, amongst other things. Check it down below if you don't know what I am talking about. And for a little while afterwards, the issue seemed to have stopped, but not completely. Slowly but surely, these crowns are still losing leaves. So here we have an affected crown. Here's another one. Here's another one. All of the crowns this orchid came with, they're all pretty much gone. And slowly but surely they are deteriorating, which is my main cause of concern at this point. In the meantime, the orchid produced keikis. I have new crowns. Everything looks like it's bouncing back. But I really am worried about those crowns still being affected, still continuing despite my treatment. And also I'm having a hard time keeping this orchid mounted, especially in my climate. As you might know, I'm not a fan of this style of growing due to the climate. I talk more in a very old video, check it down below. You're gonna have all sorts of links in the description as always. So today what I want to do is unmount this orchid and pot it. Since this is a Neo-Phoenicia hybrid, she will do okay mounted. I have no worry. I have other Neo-Phoenicia hybrids potted. Did I say mounted? Sorry, I meant potted. And also I think I will try to get rid of these crowns or part of them because they still continue to go downwards. So I think I want to cut the stem below the infection. So we'll see how this goes. I decided to take you along because I think it's going to be an interesting case and also a difficult case. Alrighty, so with that long introduction, let's just start by trying to unmount the orchid. Alright, so the tool which will help us today is a blunt butter knife. We don't want anything very pointy. We don't want to poke the roots or worse, our fingers. All we want to do is something to help us detach the roots from the surfaces and also maybe cut away part of the wood, dead roots, things of the sorts. And I found that the butter knife is the best tool for this purpose. So first things first, with mounts, always check if there is a wire or a thread or something holding the orchid to the mount. And in our case, we can see we have a little wire here, which I don't think I need to cut. I think I can remove. And there we go. Let's look where the roots are attaching. And pretty much we have quite a few roots being attached. Now this wood is not very new. It's a little soft, which will help us, but it's not falling apart. If it were falling apart, I would just try to remove it, pull on it, remove piece by piece, and pretty much save the roots. But in our case, that will not be possible. So we will have to go in with the knife, try to go below the root into the wood because the wood actually is a little degraded, so you can go into it a little bit. So rather destroy the wood than the actual root. And I'm hoping you can see here, I'm going beneath the root and lifting up. So I'm gonna try to do this for the entire length of this root. And I'm hoping that the angle is good because for me, it's a little awkward and I'm hoping that I will not cut the root, but it's not going bad. All right, let me give you a close-up just to make sure you're seeing this properly. Okay, so what we want to do is go into the wood under the roots and pry them apart. There we go. And in this instance, can you see this? We are damaging the wood, but not the roots. We can remove the wood afterwards. If there are small pieces left, that's okay. But the important thing is to damage as little as possible the roots. Okay, so here is the first root we actually need to cut. So this here is a dead root. You can see it's dry, but it's in the way. I cannot actually continue. So I will cut it, and that's okay. We don't need it. And I will just continue detaching and removing the roots. Okay, so I detached this entire section, but I think what I need to do next is to remove all of these very dried roots because they're simply in the way, they're not alive anymore, and they might actually damage the live roots. So I'm just gonna get them out of the way really fast. There we go. So at this point, they're not gonna hinder the process. And look at that. The roots are just coming off the wood without any type of damage. Or if there is damage, it's really, really, really minimal. Okay, so this is going pretty well, thank goodness. Alrighty, so actually the entirety of this section came apart. Do you see? That was the idea. Now, on this side, we have a few more live roots and a few dead roots. Let's see what we don't care about. We don't care about this section of the root because it's dried. Let's remove it. And now we want to apply the same technique here in the front as well. Well, these roots are coming apart really, really fast. And there we go, we detached these roots as well. Time to move on this side, which again is slightly problematic, but with a little patience, hopefully we can detach the roots. So we're just gonna go about it in the same way. All right, this wasn't actually very hard. So at this point, most of the orchid is actually detached. Another thing I wanted to mention, from the beginning, you can actually remove the hook, and it's gonna make the process a lot easier. But my hook is stuck in here. I think it has a bend or something inside. It simply does not want to come off. Case in which, what you can do is cut it here and then pull it on the other side. But this is a very thick wire and I have no idea where my wire cutter went. I think my boyfriend stole it. So I can just avoid this little hook, but obviously if you're ever in this position, you can remove the hook and chances are you're gonna have much more success than me. So at this point, I think the hard part is pretty much over, but there are still roots which are attached. So at this point, I want to verify manually what I can detach and be very gentle about it. Just detach all of these roots which are still clinging to the wood. In the process, you might actually damage a few, you might actually rip a few. That's okay, that's how the process goes, it's inevitable. But if you take your time, you can save as many as possible. Whenever you see a dead root which is in the way, just cut it, remove it, and the process will be a lot easier. Pull it apart, and there we go. See, as I was saying, some of the dried roots are still hanging on. But there we have it. This is the damage. So these are the only roots which got damaged in the process. You can see one of them grew on this side, but it didn't look so healthy. But overall, considering the quantity that this orchid has, I say we did a pretty good job. So the lesson here is to properly soak the mount, soak the roots, work with an object that is pretty thin but not pointy. It can have a sharp edge, that's okay. If you can go for something blunt, that's even better, because the purpose is not to cut something but to pry apart. Don't try to use cutters or anything pointy because you can actually hurt yourself. That's the last thing you want to do. Might as well cut all of the roots rather than hurt yourself, so just be extra careful with that. And then just try to pry the roots apart. Damage the wood first. There's a high chance that it's already a little bit degraded, so you can actually carve into it a little bit, even if it's not totally degraded. Sometimes you can even remove parts of the wood. I had this happen and things are a lot easier. And just take your time, don't rush it. You can bring the orchid closer to your eyes so you see better what you're doing. You can use a magnifying glass and do the best you can. You will have some damaged roots, guaranteed. If not a whole lot, at least one. It always happens. But the important thing is to save as many roots as possible. Alrighty, so what I'm gonna do is get rid of all of this mess and come back and actually remove all of the dead roots on my orchid, and we'll see what to do about the crowns. Okay, so I removed everything that I wanted to remove. Now, let's see what to do about those crowns. There are a few ways to go about this actually. You can cut the stem somewhere in the middle and just put some cinnamon or another sealant there and let it be, or you can go all the way to the base where the keiki is and just remove the entire mother plant. To be fully honest, I don't know how this orchid will do from now on. There's a chance that the infection will continue to go downwards, but there's a chance that it won't. So I'd rather just remove the entirety of the plant rather than risk spreading whatever disease this plant has to the keikis. It might happen, that can happen. So I think I will opt for removing the vast majority of the mother plant structures. You can also see these leaves. They're very dehydrated, although I did a very good job in maintaining this orchid hydrated more than I should have, because I knew I was going to pot it and I didn't want these roots to be completely aerial, quotation marks. I wanted them to be adjusted to moisture. So you can see the mother plant. No, something's wrong. You can see it. It's not going to end well. All of these leaves will fall. Might as well remove this part before it gets worse and transmits something to the keikis. So how I'm gonna do this, let me get you in closer. I'm gonna go very close to the keikis and try to remove, let's say, a little bit above the roots, a little bit above this point here. Ideally, I would remove the entirety of the plant and just leave the keiki, but that's not a good idea because most of the roots are produced by the mother plants, not the keikis. So for now, I need to leave a few stems, and when they get dry, possibly I'll remove them. So how I'm gonna do this is go right here, and this is where I'm gonna do my first cut. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna clean it afterwards. All right. Oh, I hope you guys were in focus. Maybe I should go back to my initial position. So as you can see, we have a clean cut here. We don't have signs of infection here, which is good. So at least visually it looks good. I will seal it and hopefully the disease will not spread, but I will go ahead and do this for the entirety of the plant actually. And always keep in mind to cut above all of the roots and not by mistake cut any keiki. All right, so things are going pretty good actually. I want to add hydrogen peroxide first. This will kill off spores and any other bacteria that we don't want. I'm running out. There we go. So at this point you will hear fuzzing, that's normal. And also let's take a look on these crowns. Do you see the little white foam? That's what you want to see. What's happening is that the hydrogen peroxide is actually destroying a thin layer of cells. It's the way we can disinfect and seal a cut wound. So I'm gonna let it fizz for a bit, then I'll come with a paper napkin, remove the liquid because all that will be left is simply water, nothing else, and I will put some cinnamon powder on top as well. Alrighty, so let's remove the excess water from the crowns. At this point, the reaction almost stopped. So I can remove the excess water. And then I'm going to add some ground cinnamon. This is the one you find in shops, in supermarkets. It's not a special product designed for orchids. And that's about it. The purpose of the cinnamon is to maintain the cut wound clean, to help it dry faster. And there were a few people a while ago saying that, hey, cinnamon is actually hygrophobic. It repels water. Why do you use it? And well, it's not entirely true. Let's think what cinnamon is. It's ground bark. It's the bark of a tree. Our bark that we use with orchids, it repels water, yeah, but at some point when it gets soaked enough, it's not repelling water anymore. Moreover, it's retaining water in its structures. So that's the thing with cinnamon as well. Yes, of course, it will repel water due to its structure, due to its shape, pretty much. But if you insist on soaking it, it will get soaked. It will not repel the water. I'll just show you here on my example. Do we see that on this crown, the cinnamon has a lighter color, and on this one, it's already quite wet and the color is darker? That's because the cinnamon absorbed water, so it's not fully hygrophobic. It is initially, just like the bark we use with orchids, cinnamon is bark as well. Due to its shape, it will repel water, but not for long. If you insist, it will not repel water. It will actually start to absorb it. So my mixture will be, as always, a little bit of moss, a little bit of bark, and this is because she will reside outside, and outside it's pretty hot. Alrighty, how do we pot this little beauty here? Now, because the roots have been soaked for so long, they're actually very flexible. I can do this without snapping them. I'm not going to exaggerate though, so what I need to do is find a, let's say, good angle in which all of these roots will fit into this pot without me having to bend them way too much. So let's see. I didn't hear anything snapping yet. That's good. And you know what? If this orchid can sit like this, that's good for me. If she's a little raised, again, that is good for me. I don't want these crowns to be buried or to be humid at all times because of the wet medium. So I prefer her to stay raised. Alrighty, let's speed things up now. And here's the end result. It doesn't look bad. I'm happy with it, I have to say. I'm relieved that I managed to remove it from its mount so easy. I have to say, I was a little nervous. Some orchids are just more attached than others. Some wood is just fresher than other. So you never know how it's gonna go, but I said, you know what? It is what it is. Let's film it and see what happens. It's going to be educational no matter what. So now I will make sure to water it, but not from above. So I will not place it together with my other Vandas, but maybe together with the Cattleyas, just until these crowns are properly dry, because you never know. I just don't want that crown rot to advance more than that. And I will keep you up to date. I think I do have quite nice looking little keikis, little growths here. I need to make another tag because I can barely decipher this tag. And there we have her. I have to say I'm relieved. Sometimes things are just not as hard as they seem. So alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful and I hope you have a great weekend. Before I let you go, check out my gardening channel. I posted a video there. I am rebranding the gardening channel. And I made a video there in which I explain why I decided to do this. So if you are subscribed to that channel, there we have it. It's gonna change, I'm sorry, but that is that. And if you're not subscribed, check the video down below in the description and learn about my plans with that channel, and I hope you're gonna stick around. So with that said, today's video is over. Thank you for watching. You know the drill. Like or dislike this video below. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, Q&As, and other fun orchid subjects. And if you want to support the channel, do consider visiting the merch store down below. We have limited edition stuff. 3 more weeks to go. Afterwards, they're gone forever. And with that said, I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.